Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Dateline Downtown's News Roundup series. I'm your co-host, Ted Shull, and I'm here with Joshua Burgman.
Good afternoon, Gators.
First of all, let me say happy late Valentine's Day to everyone, and happy President's Day.
Oh, yes. Happy President's Day to Barack Obama and also to President Locke, our president of SGA. So happy. Oh, you know what? I just saw him in the hall. I wish I would have said that to him when I saw him. Oh, man. Oh, well. Well, President Locke, if you're listening, from the staff here at Dateline Downtown, we wish you a very, very good President's Day. And we hope you enjoy it.
To start out today, let's start talking about the Locke administration. I know they have plans for February 23rd to go to Austin. And this is part of Locke organized this organization called the Texas Student Association, which has members from schools all over the state, UT, A&M, TSU, U of H, UHD. Locke pretty much organized this himself. Now, there had been a previous Texas Student Association, but it was like 10 years ago, and it wasn't very active.
Right.
So Locke initiated this and has been at the fore of most of what's going on with this organization, and they've been very active. And this week, he's going to Austin to lobby lawmakers about funding for the UH system in general. So we're talking UH Maine, UH Clear Lake, UH Victoria, UH Downtown, all of the campuses.
I think that's a great thing because it's important that we are a part of the conversation, specifically speaking toward the University of Houston downtown, because, Congress and, Congress in the United States, the United States Congress, and then also the Texas Congress, these are the people who decide, how much tuition we pay or, our student loans, things like that. They have a big input into what goes on at colleges and universities within the state. And it's important that we have a representative from the university there to speak for us and to say, hey, we're here, we're trying to work with you, let's talk. And so I think he's a good ambassador for the university to represent us in Austin. So that's awesome. And I wish them a very safe trip and good luck.
And just on a side note, one of our Dateline reporters will be accompanying him.
Oh, who?
Jason.
Oh, okay.
Jason's going to go on the trip and report live for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys got to look for that in the next issue.
Yep.
And that would be in issue 3, right? So
yes.
You have to look for that. And I really encourage people to look for that because, like I said, it's important. And hopefully what we gain from that and what Jason puts in that article will be helpful to, to some students here on campus, and will also answer questions, so that is really important.
One of the big things that these legislative sessions that Locke is going to do, like you said, is allocate money for buildings, programs,
right,
things like that. UHD doesn't have many buildings. We have 3 buildings. So one of their goals is to build a new science and technology building.
Right.
UHD desires to be the hub of what's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM studies in Houston. So that's a big deal.
It is a big deal because it's more than just a new building.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's funding. It is. It increases. I always talk about increasing the presence of our school, and then I always say, we should increase the presence of Dateline. But that is what that building will do. It increases the presence of our university. It makes people who are doing research. It makes researchers more interested in coming to UHD and being a part of what we do here at the campus. So if they are able to accomplish that, like, that's huge. It's not just, it's not just another building, you guys. That's funding, it's money, it's prestige. It comes with a lot of things.
And it makes our degrees ultimately more valuable.
Right, exactly.
In the real world. Another big objective is, for the future of UHD, is an expansion of graduate programs. UHD, I myself am graduating, and UHD really doesn't have any graduate programs that interest me at all. So I either have to go to UH Maine or another campus. And I know UHD is trying to establish a graduate program in history.
Oh.
And also some other areas like philosophy, psychology,
right,
things like that.
That would be nice. It's more appeal.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will attract more people to our school. More people means more money. People.
Definitely.
That's what that means. So, well, that's cool. That's good news for UHD for the week. In other news around Houston, of course, right now probably some of the biggest news in Houston right now is, of course, the burning of the Islamic Center that took place last week. It is something to me that's a low point in the history of Houston. We're a very diverse city, and we're usually very tolerant of each other and respectful of people's beliefs and religion and their places of worship. So to have something like that happen in our city, I think it's terrible. I mean, of course it is terrible, but it's just like, hey, we don't usually do that type of stuff.
And this comes on the heels of an outrageous execution in North Carolina of three innocent students, two of which had just gotten married a month before, who were allegedly shot over a parking spot. But I don't believe people shoot people over a parking spot.
No, I would agree with you on that, but hey, people kill each other over shoes.
They do.
So a parking spot, I wouldn't put it far past, but it's believed that they were killed because they were Jewish, correct?
No, they were
because they're Islamic.
They were Muslim, yes. And the two women wore the hijab. They were fairly devout, but by no means extremists.
Right.
They were students. He was a dental student. His wife was going to be a dental student.
Right.
And the other one was studying architecture. Early 20s, bright future ahead. This guy had started a charity. He was crowdfunding on Facebook to bring dental care to refugees in Syria.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's sad, but after his death, his charity skyrocketed in the amount.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But this is so tragic that President Obama even made remarks about this execution.
Well, it's tragic, yes. And I'm aware that when I say this, people might not like the fact that I'm going to say what I'm about to say, but I believe that it was a little bit expected. You can't right now when the world is very charged right now in a negative way as when it comes to Muslims and the religion of Islam. And so, especially here in America, a lot of times we tend to take things very personally, or sometimes we can also get fanatical. And while tragic, I don't believe that a murder like this was completely unexpected. No. With what's going on right now, not just in the Middle East, all around the world, Islam has been once again set on the stage, where it's the main focus right now. It's one of the biggest things in the news right now, or in the news media. Everyone is talking about the religion of Islam and Muslims in general, about their beliefs and like for instance, ISIS. Are they really Islamic?
Sure.
Things like that. So I don't think that this
interpretations
is really
of the Quran.
Exactly.
I mean, it's estimated that 90% of Muslims interpret the Quran to be a peaceful document, a peaceful religion. And then you have the extremist elements, which, of course, every religion has its extremist elements.
Every religion does. No matter what you say, every single one does. And that has been proven throughout history, that every single one does. And, well, like right now, going back on the murders that took place in South Carolina, this is just, it's a reaction of that.
Yeah.
Every action has a reaction. And the actions that are being carried out by some fanatical Muslims are being reacted to here into the States. And I don't believe that should be unexpected.
No, but it is being investigated as a hate crime by the FBI, which I'm happy about. The assassin was a self-proclaimed agnostic atheist. I'm sorry, and tweeted about his hate for all religions. And this had been a long-running parking dispute between neighbors, and apparently it just took a wrong turn.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
A parking dispute that took a wrong turn.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
That's what the news media is
Really?
portraying it at so far. I mean, they don't have evidence that it's a hate crime.
Right.
But obviously, to kill all three of them, you've got to have some hatred inside of you.
To kill one, you got to have some hatred.
Yes.
So 3 is just...
over the top.
Wow, okay.
Another, on the same track as ISIS, yesterday we found out that over a dozen Coptic Christians were beheaded in Libya. Coptic Christians from Egypt and Libya by ISIS. Right. Which just underscores their brutality.
These... It does underscore their brutality, just like the dude, burning the Jordanian pilot in the cage. But when, I cannot help but to think of all the historical undertones when thinking of ISIS. Because we call them brutal and barbaric, which they are.
Yes.
But it's things that we've seen before. This, it goes back to, Obama's speech at the prayer breakfast. They are things that we've seen before. The leader of ISIS calls himself a caliph. The last caliphate was, oh my goodness, hundreds of years ago. So we have to, wait, was it even hundreds of years ago? Don't let me embarrass myself. Let me look it up. But the last caliph was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
And they're bringing this back, and then you have spokesmen for ISIS telling their followers to kill infidels and to destroy their crops. So, and that kind of goes back to people saying whether ISIS are really following Islam or if they aren't. And they are. It may not. The president.
They are following Islam.
I'm gonna say we're saying historically. That's what I'm saying. Let's take a historical perspective on it, because, even the president said, they're not Islamic. It's not true. They may not be our brand of Islam, the one that we prefer, the peaceful brand of Islam. But like we said, every religion has their fanatical sects and all of this. That's just what's happening. They are quoting in some of their, some of the things that they're doing. They're quoting the Prophet Muhammad as, saying, hey, he said that this is what we should do. Yeah. And so I think that's how we do have to look at it. It is Islam. It's just not our brand of Islam. Like I told you earlier, I was reading this article, written by Paul Rosenberg. And he talks about Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural, and he compares it to what President Obama said at the prayer breakfast. And I think what's so important about that is the juxtaposition there, because he talks about, okay, so he brings up Lincoln's speech, and in one part of the speech, when referring to the North and the South, and of course the Civil War, Lincoln says, and this is a quote from the speech, he says, "Both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each evokes his aid against the other." So, it was very true then.
Yes.
It's still very true now.
And the South used some passages of the Bible to condone slavery and things like that. So it's different interpretations.
It is. And that's why, I don't like when people say, well, it's not Islam. You have to look at the history, because it is. It is. It is just not our brand of Islam. It's not the one that we prefer. It's not peaceful. It's not, it's not.
It's maybe 1,000 years behind our time.
Exactly. Because they even, if you look at it, they even consider, or they even look at the world as borderless. They don't believe, their ultimate goal is to take over the world. Essentially, if they could march into the U.S. tomorrow and take it over, they would.
Yes.
So this is not, this is not brand new.
No.
And I think it's so important to pay attention to the historical undertones, because they teach us, like we talk about them killing these 21? 20 Egyptian Coptic Christians. That's like crusade type mind frame, So, which is interesting, because we were talking about earlier, Congress isn't really getting behind the president to fight ISIS, and it's come to a point now where it's like, what's gonna happen next? They went into Libya, and of course that's from the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi. That's another, we talked about what's his face in Iraq. Yeah, we talked about Saddam in Iraq.
Cause and effect relationships.
This power vacuum.
Yeah.
And now ISIS is just filling that. So, what's going to happen next? But I do believe that there should be some kind of accountability among the nation states in the region, because they're not doing enough.
No.
Everyone is looking to the U.S., if they want boots on the ground, it has to be our
If they're
boots,
looking to the U.S., then our president needs to be able to have the authority. And Congress should support him in that.
Well, to play devil's advocate here, why should we get involved when the region that's being affected by it most hasn't amped up their military strategies or their military involvement? Jordan didn't start bombing ISIS until they killed a pilot. Egypt has just claimed to make some attack on ISIS after, they killed the Coptic Christians. Exactly. Yeah. So why do we have to get more involved than the people who are actually in the area?
Because ultimately, I think ISIS will threaten our national security. Is threatening our national security interests as we speak. And as you referred, the U.S. caused some of this.
Yes,
the power vacuum in Iraq, in Libya, was caused by our actions.
But see, there again, though, that's another situation where we had to get into it, because, everyone was saying, oh, well, he can't be stopped without U.S. involvement. Yeah, the U.S. has to.
Both of those strikes were seen as perfectly successful at the time.
I'm sure we're rethinking that right now.
Yes, we are.
See, it's just another case where, which one is worse?
Yes.
This
is a very interesting dialogue, because you have a historian and you have a political scientist. So you're getting news from two perspectives, but it is, that's one of the good things about the analysis that we try to bring you guys. It's from different perspectives.
That's true, and mine will always be from a historical perspective.
Yes.
But it's just because I believe that history teaches us.
Yeah.
We have to learn from it, and it's important to go back and look at it. It is extremely negligent of us, just like with global warming, to not take into consideration what has already happened.
Yes.
Because we can learn from it. This is just another situation where Muslims aren't fighting each other, but they're fighting everyone else with ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone else has to fight them. But this, like I said, it's happened before, and we need to learn from it. And I just feel like for us not to respect that or to take into consideration the undertones of history here, it's just negligent. To me, it reminds me of the whole, climate change thing. We know it's happening, but we're doing nothing about it.
Of course. Well, I'll throw in my 2 cents. I mean, I think that a global coalition does need to be formed with a Sunni-led army at the fore.
Sunni or Shia?
Sunni.
ISIS is Sunni.
Yes. I think Sunni.
So they need to be taken down by their own...
Yes.
By the inside.
By Jordanians, for example. U.S. has actually requested Iran's help in this matter. And I think that Sunnis should take the fight to ISIS.
Well, if it's going to be a collaborative effort, Iran is important. Iran is a major player in the region. Geopolitically, Iran is what the young kids would call the shiznit in the reason, in that region. So it is important to have their involvement. Hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Of course. But one has to wonder how deep that friendship will go, especially when you have possibility of nukes on the table.
Well, it will go as deep as the situation will allow it.
Yeah.
I mean, we only need each other to defeat ISIS.
Yeah.
After that, we go back to the same old how it's been.
Yeah.
That's.
But who knows how long it will take to defeat ISIS?
That is true. But with a concerted effort, it would be a lot easier to do so. And I don't even think that ISIS, just like Al Qaeda, ISIS will never be defeated.
No.
That's why every time you hear the president or Josh Earnest talk about ISIS, they say to destroy or degrade.
Yes.
And they understand, which is why they always use that language. They understand that the most realistic goal is ISIS's degradation.
Yes.
Other than that, destroying them, that's just
another interesting first in this struggle. U.S. troops were at an Iraqi air base, Al-Assad Air Base in northern Iraq, and he was attacked by ISIS fighters.
They weren't.
They were training.
Let's be clear. They weren't troops that were fighting.
No, they were training.
But
it was highly anticipated that they would have to defend.
We knew that when we sent them there.
Yes.
Because you had all sorts of Republican senators getting on, and Democrats, some Democrats alike, getting on the news saying, well, they're not fighting, but what's going to happen when they're attacked?
Yeah.
So this was anticipated.
Yeah.
And so now it's just like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You anticipated this, you knew it was going to happen, so are you willing to back them up? Are you willing to go further? Because they did attack us. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that was also like we said, it was expected, but ISIS is deliberately pulling us in slowly but surely. They're pulling us in, and they're not going to stop until they have our full attention.
Yeah.
And I wonder what it will take for them to get that.
As do I.
And the scary thing is, you have this whole thing with DHS coming up. And it's running out of its $40 billion, budget and having no more money left. Now, I think some people get a little nervous or afraid when you hear things like the Department of Homeland Security shutting down. Yeah. But what we have to understand is that while significant parts of DHS will have to shut down, it won't be shut down completely.
No.
Because,
hundreds of thousands of employees at DHS.
Around 30,000.
No, lay off.
Lay off?
But there's hundreds of thousands of employees at DHS.
Oh, yes, right.
Yes.
I think the number is around 230.
Yeah.
And so the the essential employees that will not be laid off because their job is considered essential to, the safety and protection of United States citizens, that number is around 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the number that will actually be furloughed or that will have to work without getting paid is about 30,000. So that's still very significant. I mean, in order for...
And this is all because of immigration debate.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's a political chicken fight.
And you have these senators and congressmen. John Boehner got on and said, hey, it's the Senate Democrats' fault. Nancy Pelosi comes out with Democrats from the House saying, we have everything we need if Boehner would just get out of the way. I have something to say to them, and this goes to the whole lot of them. But I just want you to know that it's all of your faults. Yeah. I mean, you knew that this was going to happen. To attach that immigration bill to the funding of DHS was just stupid anyway.
Yes, it is.
Like, I'm really irritated that we're having to talk about this because, this is not something, this is not something in the U.S. that is unknown. And again, we can learn from history here.
Yes.
Because this is, and very recent history, I might add. Come on. How long are we going to have to put up with them doing this?
Yeah.
And, the thing about it is, I understand, like I said, of course, as a historian, I understand that our government was created so that we would argue. It was created so that we wouldn't get along, so that we would have these, diverse opinions, and so that we would also have, I don't know, so everyone would just, there would be a healthy debate.
Reminds me of the first time Washington went to the Senate to get a treaty with an Indian nation. Mm-hmm. He thought he would get it signed immediately, and the Senate said, "We'll get it back to you in our good time."
Exactly, and see,
Washington said, "I'll never do that again."
That was that check on the president. Obama should have thought about that when he first became president. He tried to go to Congress. You remember that?
Yeah.
He tried to go to Congress, and they just completely shunned him. It was so bad.
Yes.
But our nation was built so that we would have healthy debates. The debate has become unhealthy, and it has been unhealthy for some time because we're no longer debating. Mm-hmm. We're not, compromise has become a very dirty word in U.S. politics, and it shouldn't be because at the end of the day, we are the United States. And so what happens affects us all. Mm-hmm. And, we need to come back to that time when we were able to disagree but still progress. And we're not there. And I think it's very sad because we were at, there were times when the president was able to, the president who really didn't get along with, his opposite party or his opponents. Absolutely. When he was able to go in and talk with them and compromise with them. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's it's so sad.
But it's not necessarily Obama's fault either.
No.
Well, let's leave it at there for this week. We'll be back next week with our usual roundup.
Oh yeah, that was a good one, guys.
Yes.
You gotta stay tuned.
Yeah.
And like I said, we hope to hear from you guys.
Leave please email us or like us on Facebook. Comment on our YouTube page. Look forward to hearing from you.
All right, yeah. Everyone have a good afternoon. And, hey,